Like, Trump wants 6 Democratic lawmakers to be hanged for sedition. They had appealed to service members not to obey illegal orders. Good luck, POTUS. More power to you.
President Trump facing outrage from Democrats tonight after demanding the arrest of a half-dozen Democratic lawmakers, suggesting they be executed for posting this video.
We want to speak directly to members of the military.
Where 6 Democrats, all with national security backgrounds, urge members of the military to disobey any illegal orders from President Trump.
No one has to carry out orders that violate the law or our Constitution.
Referring to the video, President Trump writing, seditious behavior from traitors, lock them up, and seditious behavior punishable by death. Later reposting a comment in which someone wrote, quote, hang them, George Washington would. Democrats condemning the comments, calling for extra security for the members involved. The White House firing back.
They're suggesting, Nancy, that the president has given illegal orders, which he has not. And to suggest and encourage that active duty service members defy the chain of command is a very dangerous thing for sitting members of Congress to do. And they should be held accountable, and that's what the president wants to see.
Trump was visibly upset on being asked about Epstein files. Quite piggy, he said to the lady journalist. Trump signs bill forcing Epstein file release.
And US President Donald Trump has signed off on a bill forcing the release of all of the remaining files related to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein.
Yeah, Matt, this is what the lawmakers had been pushing for, and a number of Epstein's victims as well and their family members. The US President signing that bill this evening around 8:20 p.m. here local time in Washington, D.C. He shared that message up on social media on his Truth Social platform, saying that he had signed the Epstein Transparency Act. Now what that does is it triggers a 30-day countdown. That's how long the Department of Justice has to make its files publicly available. This bill calls for the Department of Justice to release all of its unclassified documents, everything it has on its Jeffrey Epstein investigation and its investigation into his co-conspirator as well, Ghislaine Maxwell. It could be things like plea deals, travel documents, flight logs, witness and victim statements as well. But look, we may not get the entire story because there are exceptions. Victims' identities will need to be protected, and any files that may hinder any current or ongoing investigations cannot be made public. So at this stage, it is a waiting game to find out just how much information is going to be made public. But if enough information is not made public, it could cause even more political fallout.
You are watching Sanglikar's Weekly. India-US trade deal and India-Russia trade deal. US clears $93 million sale of Javelin anti-tank system, Excalibur projectiles to India. The US State Department has approved the sale of Javelin anti-tank missile system and Excalibur guided artillery munitions worth $93 million to India, the US Defense Security Cooperation Agency said. The purchase of U.S. defense equipment is India's first under Washington's foreign military sales program since ties soured in August after President Donald Trump doubled tariffs on Indian goods to 50% as punishment for New Delhi's purchases of Russian oil. It follows a reorder this month of fighter jet engines made by General Electric to power more of India's home-produced Tejas combat aircraft. This proposed sale will support the foreign policy and national security objectives of the United States by helping to strengthen the U.S.-Indian strategic relationship and to improve the security of a major defense partner which continues to be an important force for political stability, peace, and economic progress in the Indo-Pacific and South Asia regions, the DSCA said in a statement. India-Russia trade deal. India likely to sign deal to build ice-class vessels with Russia in $100 billion trade push. On November 18, Nikolai Patrushev, chairman of the Maritime Board of Russia and a high-ranking aide to President Putin, called on Prime Minister Narendra Modi as part of preparations for the 23rd India-Russia summit, scheduled for early next month in New Delhi. Following his meeting with Nikolai Patrushev, Prime Minister Modi posted on X, "Pleased to receive Mr. Nikolai Patrushev, aide to the President and Chairman of the Maritime Board of Russia. We had productive discussions on cooperation in the maritime domain, including new opportunities for collaboration in connectivity, skill development, shipbuilding, and blue economy.
Breaking news, next news item, oh, it's breaking fast. Next news item, blink and it's gone.
Why Trump's sudden tariff reversal signals a major strategic win for India. The United States has unexpectedly rolled back tariffs on over $1 billion worth of Indian agricultural and processed food exports, reducing duties from 50% to zero. The move, approved by President Donald Trump, is being hailed as a major win for PM Modi and Indian exporters. From spices, tea, coffee, fruits, nuts, essential oils, cocoa-based products and more, India now gains unprecedented access to the lucrative U.S. market. Analysts say this decision could boost Indian farmers, strengthen value-added exports, and reshape India-U.S. trade dynamics. This comes as Trump faces pressure over high consumer prices and political losses in key races. But is this really a strategic trade shift? Or a political calculation? Like, Bernie Sanders said Trump likes only Saudi billionaires who make his family rich. He has hatred for the rest. He is right.
I want to say a few words about President Trump's invitation and lavish welcome of Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, the dictator from Saudi Arabia. Here he comes into the White House. He is wined and dined. He is Trump's wonderful, good friend. Do you know who this guy is? He's a murderer. He does not only is he responsible, according to American intelligence, for the murdering and dismembering of Jamal Khashoggi, who was a Washington Post columnist who was critical of MBS and Saudi Arabia policy. But in addition to that, he executes hundreds and hundreds of people in Saudi Arabia every year. Women are third-class citizens. People do not have the right to dissent. That is Trump's good friend. What does that mean? What it means is a signal, a message to all over the world that the United States now supports dictatorships. We're on the side of those people who are fighting democracy, who are supporting authoritarianism. But that's not all. Last night in his dinner, lavish dinner in the White House, Trump invited the richest people in America, Elon Musk, Ellison, and many of the other big tycoons, big tech guys, to have dinner with MBS. And what that is about is the fact that the oligarchs all over the world, MBS from Saudi Arabia is part of the wealthiest family on the planet, meeting with Elon Musk, the wealthiest guy on the planet, to talk about how they go forward in dividing up this world for oligarchy and how they go to war against democracy. That's what this meeting and invitation to MBS is all about. It is a betrayal of what this country is supposed to stand for. It's a sad state of affairs. Our struggle is we're going to fight for democracy, take on Trump, take on the oligarchs. Thank you.
Trump flips out, MBS steps in. Tensions erupt inside the White House when Donald Trump unexpectedly loses his temper during bilateral talks. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman suddenly steps in, calming the atmosphere with a sharp, unexpected intervention.
Mr. President, for your family to be doing business in Saudi Arabia while you're president, is that a conflict of interest? And Your Royal Highness, the U.S. intelligence concluded that you orchestrated the brutal murder of a journalist. 9/11 families are furious that you are here in the Oval
Who are you with?
Why should Americans
Who are you with?
And the same to you, Mr. President.
Now, who are you with?
I'm with ABC News, sir.
You with who?
ABC News, sir.
Fake news. ABC fake news. One of the
But the
worst,
question is-
one of the worst in the business. But I'll answer your question.
Thank you.
I have nothing to do with the family business. I have left, and when I've devoted 100% of my energy. What my family does is fine. They do business all over. They've done very little with Saudi Arabia, actually. I'm sure they could do a lot. And anything they've done has been very good. That's what we've done. We've built a tremendous business for a long time. I've been very successful. I decided to leave that success behind and make America very successful. And I've made America more successful by far than it ever was, and that it ever could have been, no matter who was president. There would be nobody bringing in $21 trillion, that I can tell you right now. As far as this gentleman is concerned, he's done a phenomenal job. You're mentioning somebody that was extremely controversial. A lot of people didn't like that gentleman that you're talking about. Whether you like him or didn't like him, things happen. But he knew nothing about it, and we can leave it at that. You don't have to embarrass our guest by asking a question like that.
Just ask Mr. President, you allow me to answer. You know, I feel painful about, the families of 9/11 in America, but, we have to focus on reality. Reality based on CIA documents and based on a lot of documents that Osama bin Laden used Saudi people at that event for one main purpose, is to destroy this relation, to destroy the American-Saudi relation. That's the purpose of 9/11. So whoever buying that means they are helping Osama bin Laden's purpose of destroying this relation. He knows that strong relation between America and Saudi Arabia is bad for extremism, it's bad for terrorism. And we have to approve him wrong and to build our relation, continue developing our relation. It's critical in the safety of the world, it's critical against extremism and terrorism. About the journalists, it's really painful to hear, anyone that been losing his life for, no real purpose or nothing illegal way, and it's been painful for us in Saudi Arabia. We've did all the right steps of investigation, etc. in Saudi Arabia, and we've improved our system to be sure that nothing happened like that, and it's painful and it's a huge mistake, and we are doing our best that this doesn't happen again.
I think you are a terrible reporter. It's the way you ask these questions. You start off with a man who is highly respected, asking him a horrible, insubordinate, and just a terrible question. And you could even ask that same exact question nicely. You're all psyched up. Somebody psychs you over at ABC. They're going to psych it. You're a terrible person and a terrible reporter.
Like, G20 summit is on in Johannesburg, South Africa. USA has boycotted it. South Africa President Ramaphosa decried bullying. Bravo.
Even before President Trump returned to the White House, there were divisions among G20 members over sharing the cost of climate action. Trump further raised tensions with South Africa by repeating debunked claims about white South Africans being slaughtered and driven off their land. Other absentees include Argentina's Javier Milei and China's Xi Jinping. But Trump's absence is not necessarily a bad thing, says political analyst Payet Krukamp.
Look, Trump not coming to South Africa may be the best thing that could happen to the G20. Imagine him or even J.D. Vance getting up on the stage here and do what Vance has done in Europe when he arrived there and he insulted each and every foreign leader sitting in that room. And that's exactly what they would have done coming here. It would have been chaos.
The summit finishes on Sunday.
As Johannesburg gears up to host this weekend's G20 summit of rich and developing nations, the US has once again said that it won't participate. On Thursday, the White House responded to comments by South African President Cyril Ramaphosa that Washington had changed its mind. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said that the US would send a diplomatic delegation to the handover ceremony at the end of the event, but won't participate in talks. US President Trump has cited his claims that South Africa is violently persecuting the country's white Afrikaner minority farmers as the reason for the US boycott. Those claims have been widely rejected. President Ramaphosa has insisted that the summit will issue a joint declaration, despite pressure from Washington not to do so. Ramaphosa said he regretted America's absence, but insisted that those participating in the summit will not agree to be bullied.
South Africa is hailing it as a major diplomatic success that it's been able to see the adoption of a leaders' declaration, and on Sunday that leaders' declaration will be officially adopted, we understand. Now, the United States says it is shameful that such a declaration has been adopted, partly because of the content of that declaration, but partly also because it was reported the US was warning South Africa not to issue a leaders' declaration from this summit, given that the US wasn't going to be attending. And that row between South Africa and the United States very much continues. South Africa now saying it won't hold a handover ceremony for the G20 presidency from South Africa to the United States as planned on Sunday, because there aren't senior US officials here to accept it appropriately from South African President Cyril Ramaphosa. There have been lots of other meetings going on in the sidelines of the G20 summit here in Johannesburg as well, including European allies of Ukraine holding talks on the Ukraine conflict and agreeing that President Trump's proposed peace plan for that conflict needs what they call additional work. Leaders will have further meetings through Sunday before the official closing of this summit, a summit which, as I say, South Africa is very much hailing as a success even without the participation of the United States of America, and it was the first G20 summit to be held in Africa.
Like, end of shutdown in USA has had no effect on markets. After 43 days, the longest US government shutdown in history has ended, but all is not yet back to normal. The delayed publication of official economic data is impacting the Federal Reserve, which is mulling the prospect of further rate cuts. The shutdown is expected to reduce the GDP growth rate in the fourth quarter and raise it in Q1 2026.
You are watching Sanglikar's Weekly.
Like, Ukraine wants to buy 100 Rafale fighter jets from France. Shocking.
At a military airbase near Paris, French President Emmanuel Macron welcomed Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky. The two leaders signed a letter of intent for Kyiv to acquire up to 100 Rafale fighter jets and other military hardware from France, including guided bombs. France has already supplied Mirage jets to Ukraine, but this is the first time Paris has offered its state-of-the-art Rafale combat aircraft. At the Elysee Palace, Zelensky called the agreement historic.
Zelensky, NATO, and corruption. Massive protests have erupted in Kiev as Ukraine is rocked by a $100 million energy corruption scandal linked to fugitive businessman Timur Mindik. Demonstrators are demanding President Zelensky's resignation, accusing his government of shielding corrupt networks that skimmed kickbacks from energy contracts during wartime blackouts. Activists vow weekly protests until all officials implicated step down. As Zelensky insists he supports the investigation, public anger grows over alleged attempts to weaken anti-corruption agencies and the government's handling of the crisis. No more money or weapons. NATO nation Italy orders Zelensky to stop war after $100 million scandal. NATO's unity appeared strained as members debated the next phase of military support for Ukraine, even as the alliance approved a new €430 million assistance package. Italy's Deputy Prime Minister Matteo Salvini openly questioned further funding, warning that expanding aid could risk fueling corruption amid fresh graft allegations in Kiev. His remarks surfaced just as Ukraine confronted a major $100 million energy sector embezzlement scandal that triggered resignations and a sweeping reform order from President Zelensky. With European allies quietly pressing Ukraine to accelerate anti-corruption measures, the controversy added new tension as Kiev's forces continued to face persistent pressure on the battlefield.
Sanglikars weekly, the ink never dries. Sanglikars weekly, it's all here for you.
Trump and Putin take charge. Brussels shocked as leaders decide Europe's fate without consent.
Washington and Moscow are now deciding Ukraine's fate behind closed doors, and they aren't even pretending otherwise. Trump and Putin are secretly shaping a peace deal, so sweeping that Zelensky has been completely pushed out. Ukraine is being told what the terms are, not asked. The message is brutal. Kiev no longer sits at the table. Europe is also excluded, stunned that the new global power axis is openly bypassing them.
We feel the Russian position is really being heard.
That line hits like a thunderclap. Russia is dictating the terms because its battlefield dominance can no longer be denied. Trump's envoy spent 3 marathon days in Miami, with Dmitriev crafting a 28-point blueprint carved directly from Trump and Putin's Alaska principles. This isn't consultation. This is Moscow and Washington drawing the borders, while the West watches helplessly from the sidelines.
The president has been clear that it is time to stop the killing and make a deal to end the war. President Trump believes that there is a chance to end this senseless war if flexibility is shown.
Like, a Bangladesh tribunal has sentenced Sheikh Hasina to death. It is death of democracy in Bangladesh. By the same logic, Mohammed Yunus too should be awarded death sentence for genocide of Hindus in Bangladesh. Sheikh Hasina sentenced to death. Hasina may have immunity from extradition.
Sheikh Hasina may have immunity from extradition. Article 6 of Bangladesh Extradition Treaty gives her relief. The key clause is no extradition in cases of political witch hunt. So the question now is, will India continue to shelter Sheikh Hasina on death row? 2013 treaty to help India refuse the extradition.
Sheikh Hasina death sentence. International Court of Jurists slams Bangladesh trial. The International Council of Jurists plans to approach the UN Human Rights Committee over Bangladesh's death sentence for Sheikh Hasina, calling the ICTBD verdict deeply flawed and politically motivated. The ICJ says the trial lacked transparency, fairness, and adequate legal representation, violating international human rights norms. Reports say India cannot legally extradite her amid risks of persecution and an unjust death sentence. The ICJ urges global monitoring and stresses due process and constitutional protections. Sheikh Hasina sentenced to death, verdict against me biased, politically motivated, says Hasina.
Bangladesh's former Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been sentenced to death. A court in Bangladesh has found her guilty of crimes against humanity. Hasina and multiple members of her party, the Awami League, have called this verdict biased, politically motivated, and even an outright farce. Now, Hasina has been charged with orchestrating a bloody crackdown on protesters last year, which led to the loss of at least 1,400 lives. Hasina says that she mourned all the deaths that occurred, that her government lost control of the situation last year, but she did not order the killing of the protesters.
Reaction from former minister of Sheikh Hasina's government.
Bangladesh's former education minister Mohibul Hasan Chaudhry.
This was an expected verdict. It was pre-written. There was a staged drama in the name of a trial. The whole process was illegal, from the formation of the tribunal to the end of the trial and today's verdict. So the whole process is a farce. It is to take revenge for 1971's trial, the trials that we had held for the crimes of 1971. That's what it is. So we were expecting this, and therefore our reactions will also be as they would expect. Right now their objective is to bar us from the next election. That's what they want to do.
UN regrets death sentence for Sheikh Hasina, urges reconciliation in Bangladesh.
UN regret death sentence to Sheikh Hasina. UN has said that we regret that this trial conducted in absentia led to a capital punishment sentence, which we oppose in all circumstances. That's the statement from the United Nations. It goes on to say that we hope that Bangladesh will move forward with a comprehensive process of truth-telling, reparation and justice as the pathway to national reconciliation and healing.
Canada revolts against Khalistan.
Canadians are now being online. They're begging, literally begging and saying, please take them back. And who are they talking about? The same Khalistani groups Canada once sheltered. The internet is shocked, India is amused, and suddenly Canada seems tired of its own house guest. This happened right after India's Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar met Canada's Foreign Minister Anita Anand during the G7 meet. Perfect timing, because outside, Khalistani activists were again stringing up loud demonstrations. But it's not Indians complaining, it's the Canadians themselves. Videos from protest went viral, and under those protests, Canadians are writing things like send them back, they need to be rounded up, and re-immigration now. One user even said, please take them back. And Indians online fired instantly. Many said, why should India take them back? Canada protected them for years now. Another user wrote, the boat had sailed in India, asked the extradition Trudeau kept in his lap. Now, why to blame India? Well, that's right. So how did we get there? So basically for years, India has been warning the Khalistani extremist is not an Indian problem. It's the Canadian problem. And today, Canada is finally seeing it up close. Their own intelligence agency, CSIS, confirmed that its 2024 annual report that Khalistani extremists have been using Canadian soil to promote the fundraise and the planned violent activities targeting India. For once, both countries agreed on one thing: neither side wants these extremist groups. Well, I'm talking about Khalistanis.
Have you noticed that BBC now started verified news? In another gutsy move, Iran has denied access to IAEA for its nuclear sites. And Japan is about to restart world's biggest nuclear power plant.
I shall stress that in case of any hostile act against my country, and in the event of reimposition of terminated United Nations Security Council resolutions, Iran will regard these practical steps as terminated.
Japan's Niigata Prefecture Governor Hideo Hanzumi said on Friday he would allow a partial restart of the Kashiwazaki Kariwa nuclear power plant, the world's biggest, as Japan tries to revive its nuclear sector and reduce fossil fuel imports. Hanzumi will still need to seek the Prefectural Assembly's vote of confidence on his decision during the regular session beginning December 2nd. A restart would be the first for the TEPCO since March 2011. Tsunami destroyed its Fukushima Daiichi power plant. It would also be a breakthrough for Japan, which after disaster shut all 54 nuclear reactors in operation at that time, leaving it heavily reliant on fossil fuel imports, vulnerable to production shocks and supply disruptions.
You are watching Sanglikar's Weekly.
Who will lead Apple after Tim Cook?
The year was 1998. Tim Cook had a secure job at Compaq. He was getting paid well. He had a good position. It was almost like the dream job. At that time, Tim Cook got many offers from Apple, but he refused all of them. And remember, this was not the Apple of today. This was Apple before the iPod, the iPhone, iTunes, all of it. The company was struggling, in fact. So Tim Cook made the obvious choice and he refused to join Apple until something changed his mind, or someone. He had a 5-minute conversation with Steve Jobs.
When I came out to talk to Steve about working at Apple, it felt so alive and so different. He was passionate about the product, about Apple, and its purpose. From that point, I never thought that Apple would be going out of business.
The rest, as they say, is history. Tim Cook's operational expertise helped Apple save billions of dollars. The company became profitable again. In 2011, Tim Cook became the CEO of Apple. Today, he served at the helm longer than Steve Jobs. But now there is talk of him stepping down. Reports suggest that he could step down as CEO as early as next year. And who will replace him? Well, Apple is planning for the succession. Tim Cook says there are very detailed plans. Chances are it will be an internal candidate. It is not clear who it will be, but reports say the top choice is this guy, John Turnus.
Like all Hollywood bigwigs went to Vatican to meet Pope. No film shooting was done.
Today, Pope Leo hosted an A-list movie stars and directors in what he called a workshop of hope for the film community. Ahead of the gathering, the Chicago-born pontiff shared his 4 favorite movies of all time. And on that list, it's A Wonderful Life, The Sound of Music, of course, Ordinary People, and Life is Beautiful.
Now, Pope Leo is actually building on a tradition that was started by Pope Francis when he famously invited comedians here like Whoopi Goldberg, Chris Rock, and Jimmy Fallon. At the time, it was safe to wonder who needed the publicity more. And now with Hollywood back here in Rome, the same question may still apply.
Like, after insult drama, Miss Mexico was crowned Miss World.
Mexico's Fatima Bosch Fernandez has been crowned Miss Universe 2025. Her win caps off a controversial year for the organization. During a pre-pageant ceremony, you'll recall one of the event organizers publicly berated Bosch. He accused her of not posting promotional content and called security when she spoke up to defend herself. Several contestants walked out in solidarity and the organizer apologized. Bosch says she wants to be remembered as someone who changed the prototype of Miss Universe.
Like, a record of sorts was created on day 1 of Ashes series in Australia. 19 wickets falling in one day. Was Pitch the villain?
भाई पर्थ टेस्ट का डे 1 एकदम कॉमेडी शो निकला। 116 साल में पहली बार 19 विकेट्स गिरे एक ही दिन में। और जो लोग कल इंडिया के ईडन गार्डन्स पिच को रैंक टर्नर बोल के रोस्ट कर रहे थे, आज उनका वाईफाई ऑफ हो गया है क्या? इंग्लैंड बंदा आउट होके रिलीफ में लग रहा था और बेन स्टोक्स भाई ने 30 बॉल्स में 5 विकेट्स ले लिए, पर फिर भी कोई पिच को ब्लेम नहीं करेगा क्योंकि रूल्स बदलते रहते हैं, बस टीम इंडिया के लिए स्ट्रिक्ट है।
Like, Tom Cruise, 63, has been awarded honorary Oscar.
My love for cinema began when I, very early age, I mean, as early as I can remember. I was this little kid in this darkened theater, and I remember that beam of light, it just cut across the room, and I remember looking up, and it seemed to me that it just exploded on the screen. And suddenly the world was so much larger than the one that I knew. And no matter where we come from, in that theater, we laugh together, we feel together, we hope together, we dream together. And that is the power of this art form. That's why it matters. That is why it matters to me. So, making films is not what I do, it is who I am.
केदारनाथ की यात्रा लाखों हिंदुओं की आस्था का केंद्र है, लेकिन कठिन रास्ते, अप्रत्याशित मौसम और लंबा समय इसे चुनौतीपूर्ण बनाते हैं। अब अडानी ग्रुप आस्था को सुविधा से जोड़ने का कदम उठा रहा है। 12.9 किलोमीटर लंबा सोनप्रयाग केदारनाथ रोपवे यात्रा का समय 8 से 9 घंटों से घटकर मात्र 36 मिनट होगा। हर घंटे 1800 यात्री प्रति दिशा में यात्रा कर सकेंगे। इस रोपवे की गोंडोला में 35 सीटों की व्यवस्था होगी और यह भारत का पहला 3S ट्राइकेबल रोपवे बनेगा, जो विश्व की सबसे सुरक्षित और अत्याधुनिक तकनीक पर आधारित होगा। ये रोपवे समय बचाएगा और सुरक्षित सुगम यात्रा देगा। बुजुर्ग, महिलाएं और बच्चे आसानी से दर्शन कर पाएंगे। पर्यटन और स्थानीय अर्थव्यवस्था को बढ़ावा मिलेगा। पहाड़ी क्षेत्रों में पर्यावरण संरक्षण चुनौती है, लेकिन अडानी ग्रुप ने सतत निर्माण, मंजूरी और स्थानीय भागीदारी का वादा किया है ताकि प्रकृति और आस्था का संतुलन बना रहे। जब आस्था की राह आसान और सुरक्षित होगी, तब भारत की विरासत और मजबूत होगी।
Elon Musk just ignited the biggest revolution in tech history. What he revealed today isn't just a phone. It's a direct threat to Apple, Samsung, and the entire smartphone industry. It's called the Tesla Pi phone, and everyone is talking about it. No SIM card, no Wi-Fi. It connects directly to SpaceX's Starlink satellites, giving you signal anywhere on the planet, in the desert, at sea, even during a power outage. Always connected. It also features built-in solar charging. No more cables, no more chargers. Musk isn't selling you a phone. He's selling you technological freedom. Its official price? Just $789. Yet it's more powerful than any phone currently on the market. But here's the real shocker. The device may soon link to Musk's Neuralink chip. Imagine controlling your phone with your mind, typing, driving, unlocking doors, or sending money with a single thought. Some call it the liberation of humanity. Others, the most dangerous control system ever created. One thing's certain. The future starts today. Are you brave enough to use it?
And finally, why not an honorary Nobel Peace Prize? No prizes for guessing who asked this. Lazy Bee. The 22nd of November, 2025.